What's going on, guys? So today we're going to be doing a video going over the top 3 classes for Blade and Soul in 2019. These are the top 3 classes for parties, basically the classes that are the most wanted and most efficient for parties, give the most buffs, benefits. This overall helps the party for raids and dungeons. I feel like a lot of people kind of jump into this game and they're like, what's the most wanted class? What's a class I can play that everyone wants in their party? So I wanted to make this video for you guys, and there's some videos in the past, but this is kind of a more updated one for this year. Hope you guys enjoy this video, and let's jump into it. So when we're talking about the top 3 classes in Blade and Soul for parties, probably the #1 class that comes to mind is the newest class in Blade and Soul, which is the Warden. The Warden brings so many things to the table, #1 being their Soul Flare buff, which is the best party buff in the game. Also, they have the best tanking capabilities out of all the tanks and the easiest tank to play, and then they also do a ton of DPS, so there's not much that this class does not do. So as I said earlier, the Warden is probably one of the best classes for parties. #1 thing has to be their Soul Flare party buff, which is the best party buff in the game. Gives critical damage by 20%, and it also unlocks Awakened Skills. The Awakened Skills are basically just enhanced versions of your old skills, so you'll see right here, if you go all the way up top, you'll see Epicenter, and then you'll see the Awakened version down here, which does a decent amount more damage per second. So very, very powerful to have these Awakened abilities for your party, because everyone's just going to be doing a ton of more DPS. Last but not least, the Soul Flare gives 20% HP recovery on use. Wrap all these benefits together and you have the most wanted party buff in the game. Another thing about the Warden is they are a tank class, and compared to the Kung Fu Master and the Blade Master, they probably have the easiest time, mainly because they have one of the best skills in the game, which is called Blade Ward. This V ability, it just makes you almost invulnerable to all damage. What it does is when you're inside your Blade Ward, it reduces damage taken by 40%, and you resist any status effects, so you can't get knocked down or pushed to the side or anything annoying. And then you also, for 1 second, get 70% damage reduced. So combine this, you're really taking almost 0 damage in your Blade Ward, and it just makes it really easy just to stand here and DPS and not even have to do anything. Combine that with also being the most least ping reliant tank class in the game compared to the Kung Fu Master and the Blade Master, really made them a great new class for a new player. I always say, if you're like interested in tanking in Blade and Soul and maybe you just don't know how to do it yet, I always recommend the Warden class, because you can't go wrong. It's really hard to suck at tanking on the Warden, and then even if you do, at least you have Soul Flare, so you can at least give your party a really great buff. So just a great class for a new player, and probably the #1 class for a party. The next class on the list has to be the Soul Fighter, which is probably the most unique class in Blade and Soul because it's a melee ranged class. I always kind of dub them as the best defensive class for a party, just because their skills are super awesome at keeping the party alive. So the first skill is called Harmonize. Now what Harmonize does is it recovers the HP of your party members by 150% over 4 seconds. Other big factor is it increases your party members' max HP by 60% for 15 seconds. So if you have a party member who has 140,000 HP, they're going to be going over 200,000 HP by using Harmonize and recovering HP. So this is a really big benefit because they allow your party members to have a lot more HP and take more damage. And that skill is called Resurrection Chi. So how this works is, let's say there's party members that are dead, you can use this ability and it'll actually revive them up to 100% full HP. Now this is really essential, especially for something like a raid. Let's say 4 people died to like a boss mechanic, or maybe didn't dodge a boss AoE or something. Well, you can use Resurrection Chi and it can essentially save the party from a wipe by allowing all your party members to be revived to full health. Another example that is very common is you'll see Soul Fighter. Let's say you're in a raid. Let's say the Soul Fighter is in Party B with 6 members, and then you have Party A with 6 members. Let's say in Party A, 4 members died from like a boss AoE or attack or something. What will happen is the raid leader will actually swap the Soul Fighter to Party A so that they can use Resurrection Chi and revive the whole party. Honestly, Resurrection Chi is probably the most clutch ability in the game because of that. Really underrated ability and just super awesome for the party. The last skill that Soul Fighter has that is really great for parties is Chi Burst. This one's actually very similar to Harmonize, and what it does is it increases your party members' max HP by 30% for 30 seconds. Really great ability there. 60% movement speed for 5 seconds for a party member. Also, it will recover 20% HP recovery for all other party members for 10 seconds. So essentially, when you think of the Soul Fighter, they don't bring a ton to the table in terms of DPS, but the main thing that they bring is just amazing defensive skills that are unmatched by any other class in the game. And I really feel like the Soul Fighter is pretty underrated, because a lot of people will just think, okay, we need Soul Burn or we need blue buff, some type of DPS party buff. And that's probably true for dungeons. Most of the dungeons in this game are very easy to clear and stay alive. But when you start getting to the high-end raids like Twilight Temple, Having a soul fighter that specializes in keeping your party alive is so important, and it can be the difference between clearing the boss and not. The final class on the list has to be the Kung Fu Master. Not only are they just a really great tank class, they also provide multiple different party buffs which help the party clear bosses faster, just do overall more damage because they increase critical damage, critical rate, everything like that. Overall, just such a solid class. So let's go over some of the abilities they give to help parties out. The first ability that the Kung Fu Master brings to the table, and probably the strongest one, is Fighting Spirit, aka Blue Buff. What it does is increases critical rate by 40% and then critical damage by 50% for the entire party. Nice thing about this buff is it actually stats with Soul Burn or Soul Flare. So literally you can pop a Soul Burn and then pop Blue Buff and you have an insane amount of damage for your party. The last two abilities that they have that are pretty useful is Tremor plus Searing Palm. Notably, Searing Palm is really good because what it does is kind of puts like a debuff on the boss, and when you have party members attacking the boss, they actually get a critical damage stack that goes up to 10 times when they're hitting the boss. So what it does is gives them more critical damage, more critical hit rate, everything like that. Overall, what I've seen over the years is if you have Tremor up and then you have Searing Palm stats up at a decent rate, you basically give your party about a 10% to 20% DPS increase, not counting Fighting Spirit, which is arguably probably better for the party. So overall, just the party buffs that the Kung Fu Master gives is really great just for increasing the overall DPS of your party. As I said earlier, they have great tanking capabilities. They have multiple abilities that grab aggro with threat. They also have multiple different iframes to keep themselves alive, like Shadow Dance, which is really good. Overall, I'm really recommending the Kung Fu Master if you want to try out a really solid tank class and provide a bunch of different party buffs. Just to note, they are very ping reliant. It is kind of hard to play them with high ping. So if you do have high ping, I probably wouldn't recommend them unless you really love the class and you're willing to invest into some type of ping booster. Well guys, that's my top 3 classes for parties in 2019. There definitely are some honorable mentions, of course, like the Gunslinger provides Alpha Call, which resets abilities of Soul Burn, Soul Flare, Blue Buff, all those great party buffs. Also just provides a ton of damage, so definitely a solid class. Something like the Assassin has Blue Buff. I mean, Summoner has some great defensive skills too, but not really the top 3 in my opinion. Overall though, let me know what you guys think. What classes are you planning to play? And hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Also subscribe to the channel if you have it. There's a little icon in the bottom right corner you can click, super easy. You got a bunch of more videos coming out very soon, so stay tuned. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys in the future real soon.